back to my workshop. I'm having a day off from real work. It's been a bit of a hectic week, so I'm going to take the opportunity to make somebody a present. So in this video I'm going to be making a handbag, but it's a moulded handbag, so slightly different, and there's a few extra little bits in it which you'll get as we go along. So I've started off by making myself a mould. As you can see, I've got a big block of wood and I've shaped it around the edges and I've screwed it to a big thick piece of ply. I've then got the outer piece, which is another piece of ply, which again I've cut a U shape out of. It fits just nicely around there like that, and I've got a gap of about 8mm all the way around. Now over the top of this I'm going to stretch a piece of leather. It's a piece of black leather, vegetable tanned. It's about 1.5mm thick, and I've got a slightly bigger piece than that at the moment, currently sitting in the hot tub, because that's the perfect place for them. But if you haven't got a hot tub, just stick it in a bowl of warm water. It needs to be in there for about 15-20 minutes, just enough to soften up. And then when it's nice and soft, we'll put it over the top of our mould, put that bit round it, screw it down with lots and lots of clamps, and then we're just going to leave it. That's the first part, that's the hardest bit. If you haven't had a chance to have a look at the other videos on my channel, have a look, and you'll see there's one there all about how to make a hot tub. Now, just to make this easy, I'm going to put a couple of tacks. Don't worry, we'll trim this all out the way later on. So as you can see, what I'm doing is stretching that into place. And I'm just going to put some clamps on that. So I'm just going to leave that now for a couple of hours in a sort of a warm place. So near the windowsill, but out of the sun. Leave that to dry, and then when we come back in a couple of hours time, that will be beautifully moulded. So here's our bit of moulded leather. Had a couple of hours to dry. Still, we'll leave that to dry and we'll get on with doing the rest of it. Now this piece here is going to be the back, and it's also going to be the bit that curls over the top. So I've cut it into a rectangle shape. And remember, we always work on the back. So I find myself keeping lots and lots of tins in my workshop. A, because it's useful for tins, but it's also very useful to have something to draw around. And as this is the tin that I use to make the original mould, now there's a couple of ways you can do this next bit. You can, if you want, use a pair of scissors and just cut it out with a pair of scissors, but I much prefer to do it with a saddler's knife. Do remember to have a look at some of the other videos on my channel. You never know, you might enjoy some of those as well. There's something there to suit everybody. So here we have the start of our back. Now I'm just going to quickly trim those up. Next, a little bit of decoration. The first piece. Now the way this is going to work is I'm going to attach two little loops on the back here and here, and so the bag will actually will attach from here and go up to the two straps. This is going to be the back, that's the bit that curl over the front. So what I need to do is to make two little straps to go on the back there. Then we'll make a strap to go on there, and we may or may not consider doing a little bit of decoration round here. I've never done it before, so let's see how I get on. Now I've cut a couple of little bits of strap, and I'm just marking up the ends now. You can just leave them looking square, but it always looks a bit ugly, doesn't it? So we'll put a little bit of shape into it. So there you are, you can see we've got a little bit of a curve to it, and we'll just again. And I'll do what's known as skive the ends. I'm just going to take some of the thickness out here and gently bevel it to a point. So when we then put our ring on like that, that would bend over like that. You can just see that makes a nice, almost seamless join, and that's what we want. So now we've got to stitch mark it. So this is a number 7 stitch marker. We put our little D-ring through there, and in a moment that will sew onto the back of the bag. But before we do that, we've just got to do something about this edge here. It's a little bit raw, it's a little bit nasty. So we're going to put a little bit of edge stain down the edges, and then give it a little bit of a polish. And there you are, as you can see, that's much nicer. So I'll go around and do all that all the way around, and then we're ready to attach this to the bag. So here we are, the back of our bag, and we need to work out where we're going to exactly attach our rings here. If we put them somewhere towards the bottom, then that causes the whole bag to pull forward and empty the contents all over the floor. If we go too close to the top, then it starts to look a bit ugly. So we need to find that sort of halfway house. 4 inches in from the top gets us the equivalent of there. So if we go 5 inches from the top, then we're not going to be far off, are we? Now, I was reading somebody else's work the other day who suggested that you have to use rubber cement to stick all these bits together first. And I suppose you probably could, and I'm sure that's a very good way of doing it, but the problem with using that is you then got to wait for it to dry. Which must mean it takes you a very long time to do anything. So I use these little tiny upholstery pins. They're called gimp pins. Very tiny, very narrow. And they do the job a treat. And then when you have it like that, then you're ready to sew it all together. So I'll sew this one on, and then I'll line up the other one. Now, I'm not going to bore you on how to do the sewing. If you don't know, have a look at some of my other videos, and there's plenty of them to show you how to do it. I'm using a thread with 2 needles, and it's a standard saddlery way of doing things. If you want to find out some of the other projects I'm working on, and not everything I work on makes it the video, just the ones that I think that you might be interested in, why not sign up for my blog, the details of which are on the bottom of the screen now. Well, there you go. Hopefully you had a good cup of tea while I was doing that. That's what it looks like on the back. Reasonably straight, that's not bad for me. So I'll quickly sew the other one in, and then we're ready to move on. Here's our front with our 2 little straps there and there, and at some point in a minute we're going to put another strap roughly in the centre there. I want to put some decoration in here. Not something I usually do, but I thought I'd have a go. So the first thing we need to do is to mark out our panel. So as you can see, I've got those two little panels to play with. Now what I'm going to go and do is just go and put this in some water for about 10 minutes, and then I can mark it out, and then we can see if we can do a bit of carving. So as you can see, I've drawn myself a little bit of decoration on some panels here, and all I've got to do now is to carve it out. So I start off by cutting around the panels. Well, there you are, my first attempt at a bit of leather carving. I think that makes quite a nice little bit of decoration. When we get our strap in the middle like that, that will look rather nice. I'm rather pleased with that. So we'll let that dry out. In the meantime, we'll make the little strap to go on the front and quickly sew it into place. So we're about ready to do something with this. It's all dried out. I've got a couple of little tiny creases here, but I can deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, and that gives me a line to work to. So just cut this off. So we're just going to cut round these corners. Exactly the same technique as before. Let the knife do the work. And that fits reasonably well on there. And we've made that the right length as well. So things are looking up. Now while I've got this in pieces, what I'm going to do is just sew a little tiny strap with a buckle somewhere around there, and then that can then line up with that like that. So you can see where we're going with this. So I'll quickly make a strap to go with that, and then we'll sew it into place there. So everything else is exactly the same. All the other straps that I've done is I'll polish the edges, stitch mark it, run a crease down the side of it and just curve off those ends as well, and then that can then sew ever so nicely onto there like that. So now we're ready to start putting it together. Exactly the same technique as before. Little tiny pins all the way in. And you can see where we're going with this. And it's starting to look really very nice. I'm just going to carry on doing that, and then I shall sew all the way around here and tidy up these one or two bits and pieces that don't quite look right. But the end is in sight, as they say. There's a little bit of finishing off to do. I could do with a bit more edge stain around here, a little bit around there, a bit of polishing. But for all intents and purposes, that's that bag done. It's a fairly unique bag. There'll never be another one, that's for certain. I do like the decoration across the top there. I think that makes it look rather smart. Anyway, we'll let that dry overnight, and in the morning we'll make the strap to go up and over the shoulders. But that's a job for tomorrow. Now the hot tub waits. Finally, the last stitch is done. So several hours ago we started with a piece of leather, and we've ended up with what I think is a rather nice little bag. Got some nice little bits of decoration here. My first real attempt at doing decoration, and I must admit I rather like that. I'm rather proud of that. Now I've made this as a present for somebody. Hopefully they like it, and if they don't, oh well. I've enjoyed making a bag, and we've got quite a nice video out of it. If you've enjoyed this video, have a look at some of my other ones. You never know, you might enjoy some of those as well. If you're interested in buying anything that I make, if you have a look at the Fitzrobbie website, you can see several of the things that I make are on there, and it changes on a fairly regular basis. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.